Hi everyone and welcome to another video. If you're new here, welcome. This is a channel for plant parents where I share my experience and knowledge I've gained over the years in keeping houseplants and to a lesser extent orchids. And I'm doing this in my temperate climate here in Melbourne, Australia. So in today's video, I want to share 7 tools. 7 tools that as a plant collector, I cannot live without. Some of these will be obvious. Maybe some of them won't be so obvious. And some of them I didn't know I really needed until I got them and I realized, oh my God, what a difference that makes. And of course, once you get to that stage, you really can't go back. You can't imagine your life without these tools in your arsenal. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, stick around. So the first tool I'm going to share with you is nitrile gloves. Now you might be thinking, Sharon, why don't you just wear a set of gardening gloves? Well, a couple of reasons for that. One, I wear gardening gloves outside, but for indoor plants, I find these are so much better. And ladies and gentlemen of the nail art loving community, we all want to be able to save our manicures, don't we? Regular gardening gloves, depending on the type, they might be fabric, they might be, some sort of fake leather or something like that. They just don't cut the mustard. They get grimy and grubby. These are single use and I use them frequently to keep my hands clean, and also if I suspect maybe I'm handling a plant with bacteria or a virus, or even if I just want to go from plant to plant to plant without the risk of transferring one thing to another, I use these. So as long as you get the size that's actually right for you, and the key is getting the size that is right for you, they're fantastic. Now, these aren't latex gloves, they're nitrile. A lot of people are allergic to latex. I'm not allergic to latex. But yeah, I find that these are great for plants and sometimes great for the garden. The cons of using such gloves are sometimes they tear. And I tend to avoid the ones that you get at the supermarket for sandwich making and things like that, because I find that they tear, that they are a lot thinner in terms of the material and that they tear a lot. So keep your hands nice and clean, sterilize the gloves before you actually use them on any of your plants, and you might find that they are just as handy and fabulous as I find them. Now, I get mine from the Med Shop, which is actually an online retailer here in Australia. They're actually medical grade, so you'll see these used in hospitals and health settings. As a first responder, I actually have a lot of access to these. Not that I use work supplies, but I also carry these in my car and in other places in the house, and they're just fabulous. I love them. They're very cheap. They are disposable, so from an environment perspective, they're not as environmentally friendly as other options, but I'm sticking with them because they work for me. Nitrile gloves, fantastic. So for the second tool, I'm actually going to bring out a couple of things that you may not have expected. These are my Japanese bonsai scissors. And yes, I use standard fiskars. I use scissors sometimes. Do I need these fancy Japanese scissors? Yes. Yes, I absolutely do. When you're cutting through foliage, these behave differently. It is like cutting through butter. They are super, super sharp. And I happened to invest in 2 pairs. So I have 2 different sizes, and mine are in rose gold. You can get them in black and other colours. But I paid a mini fortune for these. I think that this was like $120 and this might have been like $160 Australian dollars. That is not cheap for scissors. But anyone who understands scissors and scissor law will know that good scissors don't come cheap. And once you've got a good pair of scissors, guys, trust me, you need to ban anybody else from using them. They become one with you. These are great. They are so much sharper than my regular scissors. I bought these from a Japanese bonsai company in New South Wales. And whenever I need to get these sharpened, I pack them up, ship them up there. They sharpen them for me, and then they send them right back within, 10 to 14 days. It's really awesome. I've had them for several years. There's barely a mark on them. They are stainless steel. Means that they do rust, so don't keep them wet. wash them, sterilize them, dry them, put them away when you're done. Cutting through even thick woody stems, it's just like butter. Oh my God, they're so much better than even my sharp fiskars. I didn't know that I would love these so much. I mean, I hoped I would, but I really do, and I use them all the time. So if you're really wanting to level up your plant game, or if you know someone who's really, really, really into plants and you love them very, very much, because to spend this sort of money on some scissors like this doesn't come cheap. This would be a great gift for them. And they don't know what they're missing, guys. They really don't know what they're missing. Or you're missing. You don't know what you're missing. Proper Japanese bonsai scissors. I love my water meters. I absolutely love my water meters. Now, I've done a video on these actually and how to use them. I'll pop it up at the end of this video. If you know how to use them correctly for your houseplants, these are a godsend. So I've got two different ones. One has two prongs, one has one prong. Probe. Now, I'm not going to get into the science of the way that they work, but they are fabulous. And particularly for most of my plants, I water on 3. So all I need to do is go in and pop this into the soil of my house plants. And if the number is on 3 or below, I water them. Now, of course, there's always plants that have different requirements, so I may adjust the number for those. But these are fabulous. No more sticking your finger into the soil and testing it and realizing that the bottom column is a lot wetter than the top few inches. I've always said sticking your finger in the first inch or down to the first knuckle or whatever the general rule is not precise enough. These are great. So you can pop these all the way to the bottom and know wherever you have them, that is what you're reading the soil moisture to be. Great tools, very cheap on Amazon. You can buy them for like $10, $12 here in Australia, but I love them. So yeah, just make things so easy. Now, I think a lot of people will know that I don't go too far at all when I'm dealing with plants without taking this little kit with me. Now, it's got a few things that I've actually added in, and I'll pull those out. This is an aquarium landscaping kit, but it is so much more than that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tools. Okay, so I've got the 5 tool. There's a 7 tool. There's other tools that you can get, I'm sure. And I've just got a couple of extra tools that I've bought and thrown into this kit. This kit's wonderful. I tell you what, the amount of times I use this, a super long set of tweezers comes in handy for all sorts of things. If you're wanting to plant out a terrarium, then you can pick up the whole plant with this and put it down exactly where you want it to. And this comes with 3 pairs of scissors, a flat pair, one with a curve on the end. Sorry, 2 pairs of scissors. This is also a tool I use a lot when I'm wanting, rather than shoving down potting soil with my fingers, I'll often just put this in and slowly work the media down into the pot using this. Jeez, this is really handy. And when I want to flatten it out, or scrape it around the pot just to flatten out the substrate, love it. Love it, love it, love it. Now you can get these on Amazon, on eBay. If you look for Aquarium toolkit, you will find these. Now, so what have I added as extra? I always keep a few Q-tips or cotton tips, as they're called here in Australia. I think they're called Q-tips and other things overseas. These are great. So if you want to get into sort of the crevices of plants and say you want to put in some garlic alcohol, if you're treating pests, you can really get into leaf joints and things like that with these. A soft toothbrush, believe us, this come in handy more than what you think. And these are a tool which I use more with my larger orchids, actually. I often will have to cut flower stems, and especially with orchids, some orchids you have the 2 leaves coming out like this, and through the center you will have the flower. And when you have sort of like a situation like that with a flower spike coming, so say this is the flower spike. So a flower spike like that. It's really hard to get into that with scissors and actually get down and cut the flower spike where you want to cut it. Got a little curve on it, so you can get right down and actually cut that flower spike without leaving, a couple of centimeters that you don't want to leave. Really handy tool. Thank you to Wayne's Weird World down in Tasmania for giving me this trick. So for this next one, it's technically two tools, but they go together, so I'm not going to separate them. And that is stakes and clips. Oh, I dropped one. Staking your plants. If you're not doing it, that's fine. For vining plants, you can let things trail. For things like alocasia, if you want, they get nice and tall, you can let them lean over. But sometimes you'll want to try and keep things a bit more vertical, especially if you've got a small area where you've got a few plants and you want to make sure that they take up minimalist real estate. And there's a couple of specific stakes that I love to use and are really cheap. First of all, bamboo skewers. Bamboo skewers are the best for small plants, larger seedlings, and things like that, where you only really need to stake something up. You might use some really small clips to go with that. So you might put the stem of the plant in here and just clip that in there like that. Hopefully you can see that, guys, but they're great little clips, especially for things like orchid stems. These cute little butterfly clips, I love these. I've got a few of these. You can just put them around the stem of the orchid and clip them on. And of course, you've got larger claw clips and other types of clips that you can use as well. But stakes and clips. So the bamboo skewers, we can get these in Australia. You can get like 1,000 of these at the reject shop or the $2 shop or something like that for, a few dollars. The other thing that I'll use for plant stakes that's really cheap is chopsticks. Bamboo chopsticks. They're great. They're a little thicker, they're a little sturdier, but they make fantastic stakes. You also often will sell, or maybe you'll get, when you get a plant, because it's already staked, the stakes that come with the plants themselves, sometimes they're plastic, sometimes they're bamboo or wood. Keep those, they're very handy. And the last one I'll talk about is the bigger bamboo. You can cut these up if you don't really need a super, super tall one and make different sizes out of them. And if you tie them together in a particular configuration, you can create trestles and things like that. So they're very handy. But yeah, staking plants, if you've got a collection, you probably do want to stake your plants at some point, or maybe you want to train your plant to grow a certain way. This is the way to do it. The other tie that I use, particularly with larger stemmed plants where maybe the clips aren't big enough or you don't want to necessarily use those clips, is plant ties. Now, you don't have to use Velcro ties like this one, but if I cut that, I can then put it around the stake and the branch or the stem or whatever it is that I'm staking, and I can just tie that like that. These are great. Reusable, throw them in the wash if they get super dirty, and you just overlap it to secure, probably the other way. Like that. Overlap it to secure. And this stuff is super strong. It's also super cheap. They're also a little softer than sometimes these clips and ties. If you don't want to do damage to the stem, sometimes you might need a softer option. That's also why I use it. This stuff is great. I've got like 2 or 3 reams of this. And after a while, after 2-3 uses, you're probably going to want to throw it away. The reuse factor on these is huge. This isn't a particular brand that I like. It doesn't really matter. Any sort of plant Velcro tie will work. Get the cheapest stuff. It really, it's Velcro. You don't need to spend a lot of money on this stuff, but you won't regret getting it. The next tool that I cannot live without is a measuring syringe. Primarily, I use this to measure out my liquid fertilizers. I don't necessarily trust the size of the lids, and the size of the lid may not be what I want to use anyway. I may want to do a half strength or a quarter dose strength. That is where these things come in. Now, you can get these from, there's a bit of water in there. All you do is wash them out when you're finished, put them on the sink to dry, and they're ready to go for next time. But yeah, you can get these at chemists. Well, I'm pretty sure you could probably get them like a pack of 10 online. The only annoying thing about these is after a little while, the markings on them tend to get worn away. I'm not really sure if the camera can pick that up where number 10 is a little bit missing. See that? I mean, I think I got a pack of 10 of these for under $2 or $2.50 or something like that. But yeah, absolute godsend for measuring out precisely your fertilizer. These are great. Now, the last tool I'm going to talk about is a TDS meter or a pH meter. Now, I could do a whole video on why those two things are important. Perhaps I will do that video, but that's not a video for today. In essence, for a plant to take up nutrients when you're using a liquid-based fertilizer, like sea salt or seaweed or your regular all-purpose fertilizer, generally speaking, most plants take up the majority of those when the water is at 6.5. 6.2 to 6.5. Now, if you don't know what the pH is of your tap water or the water that you're using, you may very well be watering your plants at suboptimal pH levels. So I'll get my watering can, I will put in the water, I will put in the amount of liquid fertilizer, and then I test the pH. Now, assuming I'm going to want the plant to take up the majority of what I'm giving them, I'm going to make sure that the reading says 6.2 to 6.5, and I will use pH up-down adjusters to achieve that outcome. Once it's at 6.2 to 6.5, great, water away. And I know confidently that the uptake of those nutrients is going to happen, because if my pH is 8, then I know very well that the amount of calcium it's going to take up, and plants need a lot of calcium, it's not going to be much, and I'm actually going to be wasting that fertilizer. The other thing that this particular tool does is it measures total dissolved solids or TDS, and that measures what crap is in my water. It doesn't tell me what the crap is, but it does measure how much stuff, in addition to pure water, is in my tap water. If your tap water is 100 parts per million or less, then that's really awesome. A lot of people measure out parts per million in their tap water in far greater quantities than that. And sometimes that will mean that they'll start moving to an RO or reverse osmosis system where they can bring down, because that crap sometimes can affect your plants negatively. And you might be sitting there thinking, God, what's going wrong with my plants? I don't understand. My watering is right, my fertilizing is right, everything is right, but my plant looks blur, or it's not growing, or it's dying, or it's something. It could very well be having poor quality water out of your tap. And a TDS meter can actually tell you how much crap is in your water. But let's assume that there's very little crap that's in your water, and your water out of your taps are fine for your plants. It's under 100 parts per million. There might be a stage where you decide that you want to make sure that your plants are getting the optimum nutrients at all times, and you want to start becoming a little bit more scientific with your fertilizing regimes. So say you want to put 80 parts per million of seaweed extract or sea salt or seaweed tonic. How are you going to measure out 80 parts per million? That's where this little tool comes in handy. So let's say the water out of your tap is 10 parts per million. That's what it measures at. And you want to dose your plants with seaweed extract at 80 parts per million. Then you know that you need to put in enough seaweed extract to get a total of 90 parts per million. That's where this guy comes in handy. So this one does both pH and TDS. You can get different ones where two different ones. It measures pH and measures total dissolved solids separately. Mine happens to do the same. So it does come with probes, these little glass probes. They need to be kept damp, and you can't see it, but at the end of this is a sponge, so it stays damp, and I keep that like that. If I need to measure more than once, I will store this. I won't just leave it out on the bench while I'm adjusting my fertilizer. I will sit it in some distilled water. And when I'm ready, pick it up, turn it on, and measure the water, and hopefully I've got it right. But yeah, when you're starting to want to level up your game, or even when you want to test the quality of your water that's coming out of your water taps, TDS meter is something that you're going to want to have in your arsenal. Well, that's it for today, guys. 7 tools that I can't possibly live without as a plant parent. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like. Don't forget to share it. Do subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content like this. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.